Thales of Miletus lived during the 6th and 5th centuries BC in modern-day Turkey. Little is known for certain about Thales, aside from what other philosophers said about him, but he is still an important figure for being the first Pre-Socratic philosopher. The Pre-Socratics paved the way for the Socratic, or classical philosophers, who would establish the major themes of Western philosophy. What we do know about the philosophy of Thales is, to the modern mind, strange to say the least. Thales is most famous for positing that everything is fundamentally made up of water. Yes, that's really what he believed, and he took it seriously. But if you think about things from his perspective, it actually starts to make sense. Hear me out. Thales was trying to uncover the unifying principle of diversity. To understand, let's back up. Thales was unique for rejecting the Greek pantheon of gods and looking for predictable laws in nature, much like modern scientists. In other words, Thales thought the world was rational, orderly, and understandable through investigation and inquiry. This was a pretty new idea for the Greeks. Greek gods were precarious and unpredictable, constantly fighting and filling the world with chaos as well as order. Thales was rejecting this notion that the world was a fairly random place full of unrelated forces that sometimes lost and sometimes won. He had to justify his own model of the universe, and if the universe was to be rational and orderly, there had to be something more to it than lots of random, unconnected parts. There had to be something underneath everything, unifying everything, and describing diversity through unity. To put it in ancient language, Thales wanted to identify arche, or unifying principle. But arche is more than just a glue that holds everything together. It also moves them, because Thales wanted to explain life. The universe is full of motion and action, but why? It could be dead, still, and lifeless. Arche is the source of this action, and it also is the source of all life. As such, arche has a dimension of intelligence. It permeates, lives, and moves. If this sounds a lot like the Force from Star Wars, you're definitely starting to understand what arche is. But there's a big and important difference. Thales didn't think the arche was invisible or intangible, but just assumed it was something material that could be touched and seen. Of all the elements, Thales identified water as the arche. So why water? Well, think about it. In ancient times, the laws of physics were not well understood. Rivers flowed to the sea, waves crashed, the tides went in and out, water seemed to move all on its own. Since Thales didn't know about gravity, this apparently meant that water could move by itself, solving the problem of motion and action. Secondly, every living thing needs water. Humans can survive weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. Animals need it, and so do plants and insects. If everything alive needs water, water is clearly an important ingredient for life. Thirdly, Thales believed that Earth originated from water, and for good reason. The Greeks knew that islands sometimes appeared out of the middle of nowhere, and didn't understand underwater volcanoes or plate tectonics. He also believed that the Earth floated on water, and although that seems far-fetched, we know from the historian Pliny that floating reed islands really existed in Lydia, not far from Thales' home. Some have also speculated that he was familiar with pumice, a rare volcanic rock that can actually float on water. Fourthly, Thales knew that substances can change forms. Metal workers were constantly melting down metal to make weapons or other tools, and that was weird. But it wasn't so weird if metal was made out of water, because everyone knew that water could change from a solid to a liquid to a gas. So water could explain motion, life, the origin of Earth, and the ability of substances to transform. Of course, we know now that Thales was radically mistaken, and even Aristotle would call him out. But Thales was also a keenly observant scientist. He famously managed to predict the solar eclipse of May 28, 585 BC, and to this day, we don't know how he did that. This gave him credibility and shows just what a thoughtful person he was. Even though he was wrong about many things, Thales used the little knowledge that he had to come up with good theories, and thanks to him, later Pre-Socratics would form new ideas about the world, eventually leading to Socrates, a man who would change the Western world forever. To hear about the rest of the Pre-Socratics and for more videos on famous philosophers, like this video, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.